Hey y'all, we are just chilling today. This is Heather with Underwater Panther, and I actually had a shout out from another channel recently, and I support many channels in many different areas of bodies of work, whatever you want to call it. I get down many different rabbit holes, and I am always very supportive to other content creators. So, anyways, thank you to Ace. You know who you are, for kind of elbowing me in the ribs to make a video. It's been a month since I've created a video. So I have a lot going on. This is a very transitional period in my life, and I have been battling battling a lot the last good solid 6 years, I would say. And so I just kind of been reflecting on the last decade of my life, and just looking at the uphill battles that I have been journeying through. I spent a whole decade of my life bodybuilding hardcore. I took a whole lot of educational courses all over Chicago, California, online, you name it. I did a lot of traveling, and I was very heavily focused on fitness and nutrition. So after that era, I got into psychology. And so I've been working on writing. I think I'm at like over 30 books at this point, writing and creating my own, oh, what do you call it? Niche? I don't know. Niche, whatever. Creating my own lane with astrology and psychology. And so now I have realized that I am in opening a whole new world. And so, anyways, the good news is I have acquired a property, and I found out that this house was for sale on the summer solstice. We are in Cancer season. So we went through the solstice on the 21st of June. This is 2026. And so, yeah, and we just closed on the house the 29th, and we have a full moon in Capricorn. So I have written a lot the last couple of days, just kind of reflecting on all of that. Yeah, I've been going through a lot personally, and it has definitely been a battle. And now I feel like I am finally at a mountaintop, and I can actually enjoy the view for some time. So, anyways, I am going to be reading from my notes. I have taken a lot of notes and have been doing a lot of reflecting on current energies, and, aligning that with my own birth chart, my own life throughout the years. So, I wanted to break down the current energies and then get into what I am experiencing in my own life. So, this is a very solemn, it is very celebratory, but also I am a Capricorn stellium. And so I just look at it like it is turning a page, and I have so much more work to do. This is only the beginning. Anytime that I accomplish something, I move straight on to the next thing. That is just how I am. So it's hard for me to actually celebrate in my life myself anyway. So I'm going to start with the current energies and then get into what is going on. What the heck is going on in my life? So The current energies are carrying a massive theme of transformation, embodiment, healing, and karmic choice. Around the solstice, we are being asked to hold light and dark together, not as opposites, but as parts of one whole. This is a threshold moment where the old patterns are rising to the surface so they can be seen, cleared, and integrated. So we have Chiron moving into Taurus, which brings healing into the body, the earth, self worth, money, resources, and our relationship with physical reality. So my Mars is in Taurus. I am Aries. So my natal chart is actually aligned with the houses. So I'm an Aries rising, 0 degrees. And I have my Mars in Taurus in the second house. So, anywho, this is not just spiritual awakening in the mind. This is the body learning how to hold higher consciousness. The body becomes the messenger. Physical symptoms, emotional triggers, burnout, exhaustion, or sudden clarity may all point to what needs healing. So, the June 29th, which is today, Capricorn full moon is deeply about structure, responsibility, maturity, and emotional integration. So, my moon is in Capricorn in the 10th house, and I have a stellium, my Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, and my midheaven are all in Capricorn in the 10th house. So, this is I cannot believe like how this lined up astrologically in my own life. Hearing about a house because of my father's neighbors, and they didn't even put it on the market. They told him about it, and literally a few days later the house and property was closed on today, the full moon. Capricorn full moon. I have a Capricorn moon. It's just absolutely insane to me. I am still kind of like in disbelief. This is I'm only at what is today? The 29th. So 26, 27. I'm like 3 or 4 days into this insane, huge, life changing. It's just, I'm like in bliss. It's amazing. So anyway, where was I? All right, so the full moon in Capricorn is deeply about structure, responsibility, maturity, and the emotional integration. With the sun in Cancer and the moon in Capricorn, the axis between home, family, roots, childhood, emotional safety, legacy, duty, and the systems we build our lives upon. It asks what emotional patterns are ready to become wisdom. What old survival structures are ready to be replaced with something real, stable, and aligned. So I also have my Chiron is in Cancer in the fourth house. So that is my major wound is the mother wound. So I am very estranged from my mother and her side of the family. That is my Native American side of the family. My great aunt actually passed away last year in March, and I had to arrange her funeral. I had to go through her house and give everyone jewelry and photos. It was really, really wild, and I had dove into my genealogy. I went on ancestry.com. I used the information they gave me, which wasn't much. It was about the immediate family, and so I had spent a solid 6 months researching my genealogy on that side, and come to find out I can literally get 3 different tribal cards. I have printed out so much information of the certified documentations I need, birth charts, death or birth charts, birth and death certificates and marriage certificates. So, yes, that's all literally printed out and ready to be mailed. And so I'm in like a gathering certified document phase. All the legwork has been done. Now it's just literally keeping track of who I need to call, get a hold of to get certified documents. So it's a lot. It is a lot. Is what I have been going through with my Cancer, Cancerian energy. There's a lot of people talking about genealogy, I've noticed. All right, so Mars is conjunct Uranus currently, which brings sudden movement, truth, disruption, disclosures, nervous system activation, and unexpected events. This can feel chaotic, but it is also a wake up call. The sacred masculine is being challenged to act with clarity instead of reaction, truth instead of domination, and courage instead of ego. So, the reason why I had gotten into astrology is because really my mother wound. I had body built for a decade and really studied on every single philosophy I could find. I love Eastern philosophies. I did yoga, I was a vegan. I've been through many different phases in my own life for working on healing and character development, spiritual development. And I can't even remember where I was going with this. I'm exhausted. I've tried to do this video so many different times and there's just been so much going on. I was going to only take a few weeks off from this channel because I have been going through insane court, just really dealing with my ex and my younger daughter's father. He has been dragging me through court for the last several years, has changed attorneys 5 different times. We had 5 different judges, appeals, special judge. I mean, it's a lot. And so I literally went through 600 pages of paperwork. I scanned it in, I organized it, just trying to, now that all of it is said and done, everything has been litigated. I have sole physical custody. Like, it is all set in stone. It took a long time to get there. It was just insanely expensive, emotionally taxing, and just trying to keep my head above water the last many years. Financially, depression has just been absolutely hell. I am not going to lie. But yeah, I was going to take a week or two off because I had wanted to create a just timeline of all of that and really get an overall, aerial view of all of it because it was just so much to go through. And I wanted to make a few videos on red flags and, just the legal aspects of separating and child support and just understanding that going 50-50 with a man, moving in, not smart. There's so many hard lessons I have learned in the last couple of years. It's just insane. So, anyways, yeah, I had moved out of a house that I'd lived in for 15 years. It was my great grandfather's house. My grandmother was raised there. I had lived there with my eldest daughter for many years. And then I ended up moving in with my younger daughter's father. I spent tons and tons of money on remodeling, building a pergola, a fence, paint, boat, you name it, just a whole bunch of crap I poured a lot into, and it wasn't under my name. So I have been starting all over in my life in many different ways. And on top of having to spend insane tens of thousands of dollars on an attorney, it's just been living hell the last many years, and I have just been grinding and grinding and grinding, still working on this business, and I was just burnt out and wanting to just take a step back and get my timeline and reflect on the lessons that I have learned and how to how to teach it, organize it. I think, the younger generations of women, we are just in a different world. I'm concerned with younger generations, the relationships, just where society is heading. It's absolutely wild. So, anyways, um, current energies, I totally tangent. So, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter are all being reactivated, bringing relationship, action, belief systems, values, love, power, and faith into transformation. So, I look at this world very different compared to most. I've been researching the masculine and feminine. What do those truly mean in an individual, as well as when you're in a relationship? How has it changed? How has institutions changed over the generations? I've been looking at generations as a whole. And yeah, so just there's a lot of masculine and feminine energetic changes across the board, collectively, individually. Yeah, so we are being asked to stop repeating power over patterns and return to right relationship with ourselves, with each other, with the earth, and with spirit. So the deeper message of this full moon is shadow work. What has been hidden must come into consciousness. Generational trauma, ego patterns, coping mechanisms, distorted communication, misuse of power, and old wounds are being revealed so they can finally be healed. So, this is not punishment, this is purification. The Capricorn moon reminds us that healing must become structure. Cancer gives us the emotional truth. Capricorn asks us to build it. This is where innocence, wonder, responsibility, and spiritual maturity meet. We are being called to remember who we are, return to the body, honor the earth, face the shadow, and create a life that is rooted in truth, harmony, and soul alignment. All right. So when I look at the current energies alongside my own birth chart, I can't help but to see the symbolism. I received the opportunity to purchase my dream home almost exactly, like literally on the Cancer solstice on the 21st of June this month. A moment traditionally associated with home, family roots, emotional security, ancestry, and building a place where life can finally grow. So, for someone with a Pisces sun, but a powerful Capricorn stellium, this isn't simply buying property. It represents decades of emotional lessons finally becoming something tangible. Then comes the Capricorn full moon, the very day I closed on this property. Capricorn has always been one of the strongest signatures in my chart. My Capricorn moon, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune have repeatedly taught me that nothing meaningful comes quickly. Every lesson has required responsibility, patience, discipline, delayed gratification, and rebuilding after loss. I'm like sitting here thinking about I literally remember all of my great grandparents almost. My grandmother's father, I definitely remember him. He passed away. My grandfather's, both of his parents, my dad lives in their house. Like, I've just been through so many. I actually knew the elders in my family, and I'm so grateful, but I've also experienced many deaths. I've experienced like family feuding. It's really wild. So the Cancer Capricorn axis couldn't describe my story more clearly. Cancer asks what truly feels like home, and Capricorn asks, what are you willing to build that will last? For years, my life revolved around court battles, custody, financial pressure, unstable relationships, rebuilding after betrayal, and repeatedly investing my heart into homes or futures that ultimately were not mine. I remodeled a house I didn't own. I invested emotionally into foundations that eventually disappeared. I learned often painfully the difference between temporary and true security. This time is different. This foundation belongs to me. All right. Um all right, so that is the opening. What am I at? 30 minutes, 20 minutes. So all right. So there are moments in life that feel bigger than the event itself. This wasn't simply about buying a house. It felt like the closing of one chapter and the beginning of another. So I am at a closing of a decade, and it's really wild. Um I have loved building this channel with astrology and psychology. I don't know anyone else that has been putting things together like I have. It's really wild. It's really amazing. I enjoy, it's really a lot of people are not into this type of work. And so there are a few, and I talk at the level at which someone is in front of me. And the conversations that I've had because of this body of work is amazing. And any little piece of advice, help, whatever that lands it makes it all worth it, whether it's in person or online. Attracting people that are into self development and the spiritual, Native American, you name it, that are into that is like attracting those types of people on that consciousness level is everything. Is everything. This has just been a wild journey, I'm not gonna lie. So for years the theme of home has repeated throughout my life in painful ways. So yeah, it's just I didn't have a mother that was a mother. Kind of traumatic. I look back at my life, and the first 4 years with her, I've had an amazing childhood, don't get me wrong, but I had to make a promise to myself when I was literally 4 years old. I had an outer body soul experience, and at that time, I already knew that there was a soul. I knew that the world was not just the physical world. I've been very in tune with the spiritual aspects of this life for a very long time, and I made a promise to myself that I will never be what has happened to me, and I have kept that promise. It's been a very long journey of learning boundaries. I am Pisces. I am empathetic. I am giving very, very deeply. My Venus is Pisces, and my whole chart is in Capricorn. So it has been a very long, long journey. Journey with home and mother and ancestral Native American trauma. And it's like my mother's side it's very traumatic to a degree, and my father's side is completely opposite, and I am grateful. It's just too extreme, so it is pretty wild. So, for years, the theme of home has repeated throughout my life in painful ways. I left the home my grandmother had hoped I would one day have. I poured money, time, love, and labor into another house that I didn't own, only to lose everything after my relationship ended. I spent years in court, paid enormous attorney fees, and carried the emotional weight of fighting for stability while raising my daughters. For the last 3 years, I've lived with my grandfather, grateful for the roof over my head, but always knowing I longed to build a home that was truly my own. So, yeah, I moved out of my great grandmother's and grandfather's home that I've lived in forever, moved in with somebody, and um, we broke up, started going through insane court battles, and I moved in with my grandparents. I pretty much grew up here, and my grandmother, she had a stroke 9 years ago, and she had been wheelchair bound and still able to take care of the house and herself for 6 years or so. And when I moved back in, I her health declined dramatically, and so I had taken care of her for about a year as much as I could, and then she was placed into a nursing home, which would not be my choice if I had power of attorney. So that was hard. Um, it's still hard. It's very hard to talk about or think about. But anyways, so I moved in here, and it's been a heck of a starting all over at this stage of my life. So anyways, yeah, the story goes back even further than that. My maternal family carries deep wounds around property, inheritance, and family history. I don't want to go too deep into that. My great aunt took control of property my grandfather built. Family relationships fractured, treasured heirlooms disappeared, and even our native ancestry was hidden from many of us. She never told us kids she possessed her tribal enrollment card. I found that after she passed away. As I researched my genealogy, I found my Cherokee ancestors and Choctaw and Creek, and began documenting our family history myself. I realized something profound. Sometimes the deepest pain isn't losing an object, it's feeling like you were denied access to parts of your own story. My father's side of the family tells a different story. They were farmers. My great grandfather built an airport from the family property where I grew up. He entrusted my father with the home and farmland because he believed in his ability to care for it. My dad has always represented stewardship, responsibility, and building for future generations. Those values shaped me more than I've ever realized. I literally live my life to make him proud. That is the Capricorn in me. So those values shaped me more than I ever realized. Then something extraordinary happened. So, yeah, the summer solstice and the closing of the property on the Capricorn full moon. So, whether you view astrology literally or symbolically, the timing struck me deeply. Cancer is traditionally associated with home, family, ancestry, roots, and emotional belonging. My natal chart contains the Chiron in Cancer, a placement often interpreted as reflecting lifelong lessons surrounding home, belonging, and family. I'm getting emotional. Looking back across my life, that symbolism resonated with my personal experience. So, yeah, as I reviewed my transits, I noticed that the sun was conjunct my natal Chiron in Cancer at the very time this opportunity appeared. Jupiter had also recently entered Cancer, bringing symbolic emphasis to themes of family, home, and growth. My chart showed several supportive transits involving healing, emotional integration, and new beginnings. Whether one sees astrology as meaningful symbolism or something more, the alignment mirrored exactly what I was living through. Okay, I'm getting emotional. So, this house represents something I've never truly had before. I mean, I did, but this is just, I don't know. Unbelievable, honest to God, unbelievable. It's not simply a structure, it's permanence, it's trust, it's stability, it's family land, it being next to my father. It's watching my daughter grow up somewhere that belongs to us. For the first time, when I paint, wood, build a gazebo, plant trees, or improve the property, I'm not investing in someone else's future. I'm investing in my own. One realization kept returning throughout this journey. Sometimes we don't cry because we finally receive something wonderful. Sometimes we cry because the chapter we've spent years surviving is finally over. So I can already picture myself months from now sitting beneath the gazebo, looking out over the fields under the stars, overwhelmed by a feeling I don't think I've experienced since my children were born. So I'm like, I literally don't think I've ever actually cried happy tears in my life. And having children, that's kind of a given, but yeah, I've been crying some happy tears lately. All right, so I broke this down into like 6 chapters. I'm not sure how far I'm going to get into this. This is like I am not exactly a person that I'm very private. I've learned some very hard lessons throughout my life to keep quiet about where I'm from, how I grew up. People, they take advantage. They have taken advantage. They compare themselves. They make judgments that aren't factual. I mean, it's life. It is life. So I'm just pretty private about things, and I just I take a long time to process. I do a lot of writing, I do a lot of journaling, I do a lot of studying and comparing, contrasting. And so I feel like I am in a whole different place in my life. So I have been reconnecting with old friends. I have gone through another breakup. I've had 2 terrible breakups in the last 12 years, and I'm just like I want to be in peace. I just want to be in peace, and yeah, that's like happening, and it's unreal. So anyway. All right, so this is chapter 1, the end of one life. So you don't know you're living through the end until it's already over. I don't think life changes in a single moment. Movies make us believe there's one defining day, one decision, one conversation. I'm going to get comfortable, and yeah, I'm just going to get a little more comfortable. All right. So I've never really hold my mic, but here we are. All right. Hopefully it's working. All right. So movies make us believe there's one defining day. I need it. There we go. I always Indian style in my desk. It's crazy. All right, so one decision, one conversation, one tragedy, one victory, a clean line separating who we were from who we become. Real life is not like that. Real life changes so gradually that you often don't realize an entire chapter has ended until you're already standing in the next one. I was raising my daughter, going to work, trying to build healthy relationships, paying bills, making mistakes, learning, healing, trying to become a little wiser than I had been the year before. I thought I was living ordinary life. Looking back now, I can see that I was actually walking into the most transformative season I have ever experienced. If someone had sat me down 5 years ago and told me you're going to spend years inside family court, you'll defend yourself against allegations that will shake your identity to its core. You'll organize hundreds of pages of evidence just to prove the life you've already been living. You'll spend thousands upon thousands of dollars trying to protect your child and your future. You'll research your family history so deeply that you'll begin to understand not only where you come from, but why you became who you are. You'll enter another relationship that will teach you lessons about boundaries you didn't even know you still needed to learn. And after all of that, you'll finally walk into the home you've dreamed about for years. I would have laughed, not because those things seemed impossible, because I couldn't imagine all of those stories belonging to the same life. But now I know they do. The older I get, the less I believe our lives are made up of separate events. I think our lives are stories. The problem is that while we're living them, we mistake chapters for entire books. I thought family court was a story. It wasn't. I thought genealogy was a story. It wasn't. I thought another failed relationship was the story. It wasn't. Even buying my dream home isn't the story. They're all chapters. And only now, standing where I am today, I can finally see the thread that connected every single one of them. That thread wasn't pain, it wasn't betrayal, it wasn't even resilience. It was identity. I'm an Aries rising. I am identity. Every major event over the last several years forced me to answer the same question in a different form. Who are you? When the life you've spent years building begins to unravel, who are you? When your reputation is questioned, who are you? I'm going to pause for a second. I'm getting emotional. This court battle, my wound is my mother wound, and I not only promised myself that I wouldn't be what happened to me, I'm not going to turn into that, but I am the complete opposite of my own mother. I take it very, very seriously. I live my life for my children. And yeah, this is deep. This is probably the most deep video I will ever make on YouTube. So anyways, the hardest part of the court battling was literally what hurt the most was the fact that this man was trying to say that I was a terrible mother. False allegations, you name it, that hurts so much more than any amount of money that I could spend. I'd say that the most painful experience is attacking my mothering identity. That's been the hardest, and that hit me like a ton of bricks when I finally looked over the whole timeline and was like, wow, that was actually the battle. It wasn't just financial, it wasn't just emotional, it wasn't just, trying to raise your children. It was literally my identity. Character assassination. Okay, so when the life you spent years building begins to unravel, who are you? When your reputation is questioned, who are you? When your character is placed under a microscope, who are you? When people misunderstand your intentions, who are you? When relationship fails, who are you? When your plans collapse, who are you? When the future you imagine disappears, those questions don't have quick answers. They aren't answered in a courtroom. They're not answered by a judge. They're answered quietly, one decision at a time, one boundary at a time. One morning, you choose to get out of bed when you don't want to. One afternoon, you organize another stack of paperwork instead of giving up. One evening, you comfort your child while silently wondering who's going to comfort you. Sorry. I am missing many women in my life. My mother, my grandmother has passed. My other one had a stroke, cannot speak. And so, yeah, I'm kind of like the woman holding a lot together. One evening, you comfort your child while silently wondering who's going to comfort you. Transformation rarely announces itself. Most of the time, it looks like survival. It looks like showing up again and again and again. I didn't know it then, but every receipt I saved, every calendar entry I documented, every legal filing I organized, every difficult conversation I survived, every book I read, every ancestor I researched, and every relationship I walked away from was quietly building the foundation for the life I'm beginning now. People often ask what Underwater Panther means. To me, it has never simply been a brand. It has always been a symbol. The panther doesn't stop being powerful because it disappears beneath the surface. It becomes quiet, focused, patient, invisible to everyone except the person willing to look beneath the water. That has been my life. Most people only saw isolated events. I lived the entire system. This is the story of how those years changed me, not into someone harder, not into someone better, but into someone who finally understood the difference between surviving a life and intentionally building one. So, my Aries rising, if you look at your rising sign, that is how you come into this world, and it is the mask that you wear. It is the energy that people initially first see from you. And Aries, I came into this life fighting for my life. I was born 2 months early. I was 4 pounds. I had to stay in an incubator for 11 days. 11 is a number that has followed me my whole life. It is in my birth chart. I have Aquarius at the 11th degree in Mercury. It is wild 11s all over my birth chart. 11 days fighting for my life, and I always joke that I came into life ready and people were not ready for me. I was born ready. Born a warrior, Xena warrior princess. She was like one of my first like idols. I have been an absolute fiery warrior all of my life. All right, so chapter 2, when your identity becomes evidence. So before I ever stepped into a courtroom, I believed something that I think most people believe. I believe that if you worked hard, told the truth, treated people fairly, and genuinely tried to do the right thing, eventually reality would speak for itself. I believe that integrity was self-evident. I believe that truth naturally won. Family court taught me something much more complicated. Truth doesn't simply exist. Truth has to be organized, it has to be documented, truth has to be preserved. The legal system doesn't experience your life the way your friends, your family, or your children do. It doesn't wake up with you every morning. It doesn't watch you pack lunches, clean the house after everyone goes to bed, pay the bills, drive to appointments, comfort a sick child, or quietly carry responsibilities that no one else even notices. The court doesn't know your heart or your evidence. That realization completely changed the way I understood responsibility. For years, I thought responsibility meant doing the right thing. Then I realized there is another level. Responsibility also means preserving proof that you did the right thing. Those are two entirely different skills. One is moral, and the other is practical. You need both. When my case began, I wasn't just walking into a legal dispute. I was walking into an environment where every decision could eventually become a document. Every text message, every email, every calendar entry, receipt, daycare appointment, doctor's appointments, photos, exchanges, conversations, everything became part of a timeline. At first, I hated it. It felt cold and mechanical. I wanted people to simply look at my life and see the truth. Instead, I learned something that I now believe applies far beyond family court. Institutions don't evaluate intentions, they evaluate evidence. That distinction is one of the most important lessons I've learned. Then came something I never imagined I would experience: false allegations. Even now, those words are difficult to say because people often underestimate what they actually do to someone. The public usually thinks the fear comes from the investigation itself. For me, that wasn't the deepest wound. The deepest wound was hearing accusations that completely contradicted the person I had spent my entire life becoming. I wasn't sitting there thinking, what if they discover something? I was sitting there thinking, how did we get to a place where someone could even say these words? There is something profoundly unsettling about realizing that your identity can be questioned by someone who doesn't actually know your life. As a mother, my identity wasn't built overnight. It had been built over years. It was built through sleepless nights, through work schedules, through sacrifices, through doctor's appointments, through school events, through birthday parties, through budgeting, through making difficult decisions no one else ever sees. Then one accusation attempts to compress all of those into a single question. Are you a good mother? No one prepares you for how psychologically devastating that question can become, especially when you know you've spent years trying to answer it with your own actions. I was going to give an example, but I'm going to actually skip that. Okay. All right. So, all right. So you're defending the context surrounding are you a good mother? So, in context is much harder to communicate than a simple accusation. The legal process stretched on for years. There were hearings, guardian ad litem investigations, attorney changes, discovery requests, and appeals. Thousands of pages of paperwork. God, I spent over $20,000 in documented legal payments with additional financial strain beyond that. An $8,000 loan, credit card debt, time that could never be recovered, energy that could never be replaced. The financial cost was enormous. The emotional cost was even greater. What surprised me most wasn't how difficult court was, it was how lonely it felt. People see a hearing you experience every day between the hearings. People see the final order. You live every anxious night before it arrives. People hear the verdict. You carry the uncertainty for months or years before anyone else hears the conclusion. Looking back now, I understand why documentation became almost sacred to me. Not because I enjoy paperwork, not because I'm naturally obsessive like that, because documentation became the bridge between memory and reality. Stress changes memory, fear changes memory, and time changes memory. Paper doesn't. So those documents quietly carried the truth when I no longer had the emotional strength to explain it over and over again. So yes, I literally have I think two like 3-inch thick binders and then another 1.5-inch thick binder. Like, just so much paperwork from letters from the attorney, court. We went through the Court of Appeals. Um, it is an insane story. It is absolutely insane. All right, so chapter 3. I don't know how much more I want to talk about this court stuff. It's just difficult to even talk about. I literally made a redacted document that I was going to put up here for the timeline, but I think I'm just going to make that its own series because there is so much that I want to talk about. I do have to give my ex Gemini props for his strategy of continuously getting new attorneys and stretching things out. Appealing, we moved courthouses. That strategy was insane. He literally told me before we were split that he would literally financially ruin me, would tear my character apart, and try to take my family down with it. So it was just insane threats. I knew that it was going to be a battle. But when it comes to my children, I am a lion, and I never gave up or in. I stood on my word, stood my ground. So anyways, I don't know if I really want to get too much into the court timeline. I think I've got a whole redacted. I made a 40-page document and then I ended up redacting it just for privacy reasons. And there are many, many tactics that I never saw coming. Child support, that kind of thing. Just strategies that people are capable of. Absolute insanity. I am thankful that I am a Capricorn stellium because I am very organized. I do journal a lot, and gaslighting only works so long. So, anyways, all right. So, on to chapter 4, searching for my mother and finding myself. So, when the court finally began to slow down, I expected relief. Instead, something unexpected happened. My attention shifted, not because I had forgotten everything I had just lived through, but because after years of defending who I was, I found myself asking a far different question. Where did I come from? It wasn't just curiosity anymore, it was identity. I had spent years proving my present. Now I wanted to understand my past. That's when I became completely immersed in genealogy. At first, I thought it was simply building a family tree. Names, birth certificates, marriage licenses, death records, census documents, old photographs, obituaries, court records, one generation, then another, then another. Before I realized it, I wasn't researching decades anymore. So I do want to say Capricorn energy is energy that really, truly, truly is grounded and very foundational. Capricorn is like the foundation. It's the skeleton that holds your body together. Capricorns normally enjoy architecture, like castles and old churches, history. I know Capricorns that do documentaries. They love history, they love origins. They love collecting things like fossils and are just very earthy and very practical. And I am so like I grew up on the farm. My father's side was always into genealogy, keeping stories alive, keeping passed on relatives, spirits alive has always it's just always been a big part of who I am. And not having that for my mother's side just absolutely kills me. And so I'm just very thankful to be able to do this genealogy work on my mother's side. I tried doing this like 15 years ago and I couldn't get anywhere. The ancestry didn't have as much in it, like the newspaper articles and the Dow's rolls. I'm in the Native American stuff, so there's just a lot that wasn't there. Tons of people have entered in information, and so it was a lot easier this time around to actually get somewhere with all of that. So, um yeah, I kind of wanted to recap about generation. I've been talking about generations lately. I've written a couple books on the generations as, going through history and astrology and how institutions, how, just the church, education. Okay, so anyways, chapter 5, the relationship that didn't break me, it revealed me. So, yeah, I've been in two relationships the last like decade and they were absolutely horrendous. I studied a lot about narcissism, about the dark triad. I am just constantly every single day researching on those types of topics. And I set very, very solid boundaries in this last relationship. And they were tested. I will put it that way. They were tested. I did not move in. He had bought a house. I told him I was not moving in unless we were married. And I'm never going to do that ever again. That was a very hard lesson. Moving in with somebody and pouring tons of money into a place for nothing. He still uses my washer and dryer. Another woman is using my washer and dryer that I paid for, and it's just absolutely insane. Never doing that again. So, anyways, after this last relationship, I wrote a 500-page book on Scorpio and what down low is. If you know, you know. So, anyway, I used to believe that healing meant becoming better at recognizing unhealthy people. Healing isn't just learning to recognize unhealthy people. Healing is learning to recognize the parts of yourself that still believe you have to earn love by sacrificing your own boundaries. So I did not move in. We did not, he started trying to talk about having a child, a son specifically, men and their sons. He has two daughters. At the time, he had two daughters. Ended up finding it had a whole nother child. It was insanity. Like I just can't. It's traumatic. Dealing with kids, I'm more mad because of the children going through trauma than my own self with our last relationship, his kids. It's crazy. So anyways, healing is learning to recognize the parts of yourself that still believe you have to earn love by sacrificing your own boundaries. So I didn't sacrifice the major boundaries. I did blow up some other areas that I should have held stronger boundaries. And so that realization took me much longer than I cared to admit. After everything I had already lived through, the court case, financial pressure, the emotional exhaustion, the years spent defending my reputation, I genuinely believed I had learned the lessons life was trying to teach me. It's this huge circular pattern. I thought I had become stronger, more aware, more cautious in many ways I had. But strength and awareness don't automatically erase old patterns. Sometimes they simply become more sophisticated. One of the greatest misconceptions about manipulation is that people imagine it begins dramatically. If someone walked into your life on the first day demanding complete control, you would leave. Manipulation rarely announces itself. It introduces itself as comfort, as affection, as protection. As I'm only saying this because I care about you. It doesn't begin by asking you to surrender your entire life. It asks for one small compromise, then another, until one day you wake up and realize your world has quietly become much smaller than it used to be. Looking back now, I can see those moments with much greater clarity. There was pressure to move in together before marriage. At the time, it sounded practical, efficient, something adults simply did. But underneath that conversation was something much deeper. It was asking me to make a permanent structural decision before permanent commitment had actually been established. Those are not the same thing. So I created a whole nother series because of this last relationship. There's so much I want to talk about. I'm just like in the process of getting a whole house together. So, this is just like an update on what is going on in my life. And then I will hopefully, very soon, within a month or two, get my office moved and continue working on my series and books here. So, anyways, marriage isn't simply a romantic ceremony, it represents public commitment, shared responsibility, and legal accountability. A mutual declaration that both people are intentionally building the same future. So, moving in together before establishing those foundations can work for some couples, but I realized it wasn't aligned with the kind of life I wanted to build. For me, commitment needed to come before merging lives, not after. No judgment on, everyone has their own life, their own free will, their own boundaries. They all vary. I am so solid, so solid. I am not ever making that mistake ever again. All right, so then for me, commitment needed to come before merging lives, not after. Then came another request: delete your social media. I'm an Aquarian, Mercury in the 11th house. I have networked in Capricorn stellium, so my networking was a lot of a lot of people that I went to class with. I had gone through the Czech Institute for Holistic Lifestyle Coaching. I was very, very, very particular with my network, and you can judge however you want. That is fine. But yeah, so it was full of people that owned their own businesses, coaches, the fitness arena, nutritional, you know, teachers, coaches, business owners, people that I've been in school with, and yeah, it was just a amazing network, and spiritual people, naturopathic doctors, you name it. So, anyways, so at first glance, that might sound insignificant. Some people don't enjoy social media. Some people value privacy. Those are perfectly reasonable preferences. But context always matters. In my life, social media wasn't simply entertainment, it was part of my work. So I built my fitness business, mind body activation performance, in a decade or so. A lot of certifications behind that. I had my own website, email chain, you name it. It's an amazing system. I ended up deactivating it. I do want to circle back around to that eventually. So, anyways, it was social media was a part of my work, my part of my writing, part of my research, part of my community. Part of the audience I had spent years building, part of Underwater Panther itself. So I ended up deleting everything on my Facebook, my Instagram, everything you name it. I deleted it. And I don't have a very good memory. I'm extroverted, sensing, heavy, Aquarian mind, INTJ, Pisces, INFJ. So I store memories in timelines and photos and artwork, that kind of thing. And it has been absolutely devastating. A lot of the arguments in my last relationship was over, my bodybuilding in full clothing attire. I had to delete those because it was attention seeking and not inspiring. It's the intentions were totally, it doesn't matter your intentions. People are going to judge you and project. So, yeah. Yeah. So part of Underwater Panther itself, to ask me to erase that was simply asking me to delete. It wasn't just simply asking me to delete an app. It was asking me to disconnect from years of relationships, conversations, and opportunities that had become part of my professional identity. Again, one request by itself might seem harmless, but healthy relationships are rarely measured by isolated requests. They're measured by overall direction. Does your world become larger or smaller? Do you become more connected or more isolated? So, yes, I became extremely isolated. Do you become more fully yourself or less? Those questions matter for more than any single disagreement, far more. As I reflected on that relationship, something else became painfully obvious. Every major relationship in my life had been teaching me exactly the same lesson, not about other people, about boundaries. When we're younger, we often imagine boundaries as walls, something harsh, something unkind, something that keeps people out. I no longer believe that. Boundaries aren't walls, they're architecture. My favorite word. They determine what kind of life can safely exist inside the structure you're building. A house without load bearing walls eventually collapses. A life without healthy boundaries eventually does the same. For years, I thought love meant flexibility, compromise, accommodation, meeting people where they are. Those qualities still matter, but they cannot exist without something equally important: self respect. Healthy compromise never asks you to abandon your identity. It never asks you to become smaller so someone else can feel bigger. It never requires you to disconnect from the people, passions, or purpose that make you who you are. One of the greatest gifts that relationship gave me wasn't heartbreak, it was clarity. Clarity about what peace actually feels like. Peace isn't constantly explaining yourself. Peace is not negotiating your values every week. Peace isn't wondering whether you're asking for too much by expecting honesty, consistency, and mutual effort. Peace is surprisingly quiet. It doesn't demand constant emotional labor. It doesn't require endless interpretation. It doesn't make you question your own reality. After spending years in court defending my character, I realized I no longer wanted to spend my private life defending my boundaries. I wanted alignment. I wanted reciprocity. I wanted a relationship where responsibility wasn't something one person carried while the other applauded from the sidelines. That realization changed the way I viewed love itself. Love is not measured by intensity. It is measured by stability. It is measured by consistency. It's measured by whether two people make each other's lives more grounded instead of more chaotic. So I literally wrote a 500-page book on Scorpio intensity and chaos and paranoia after this last relationship. It is insanity. So looking back now, I don't carry resentment toward that chapter. I carry gratitude because every relationship leaves behind a curriculum. Some teach us how to love, others teach us how to leave. Some teach us what to seek, others teach us what we will never accept again. Both kinds of lessons are valuable. As difficult as that season was, I can honestly say it prepared me for something I wasn't yet ready to receive. Not another relationship, a different relationship with myself. For the first time, I wasn't asking who will build a future with me. I was asking what kind of a future am I capable of building on my own. So yes, that last relationship, I'm always like having to completely rebuild. It has just been a theme. I tend to really truly go all in. Yeah. So I've got series upon series and more writing to do about all of this. All right. So where do I want to go? All right. What chapter are we on? 6? All right. So we are on chapter 6. Do I want to get more deep into this aspect? No, I don't think so. All right, so actually I think that is about all I wanted to do with this. Cuz yeah, I'm just going to break this down into different series according to the crazy ass lessons I've learned in the past decade or so of my life. So anyways, wild. It's been a wild, it's just been absolutely crazy since, 2019 COVID. I don't know. It's just been a chaotic timeline and barely even keeping my head above water. And finally entering into a new phase of my life, and I honestly cannot be happier. It's wild. So anyways, that's what's going on. And thank you all so much for being concerned and worried. I was pretty burnout. I literally have a full-time job and come home and work another full-time job. So I am extremely passionate about this work. I will continue on, but I literally had to just take a seat and like literally go through tons of actual documents, and it's in different realms. It was court documents, are you a good mother, fighting for money that I've already spent. Like, children, they cost money to raise. So like, who knew? Anyway, so that between that and genealogy and trying to connect back to my true spiritual roots, I was raised Catholic on my father's side, and my soul and spirit are 3 tribes deep, Native American wise. So yeah, I am, I've got a lot going on. It's a very wild life. Yeah. I'm still sitting here reflecting myself. So, anyways, y'all, hopefully everyone is doing great. Hopefully things have turned a tide for you as well. 2026 has been crazy. Time is flying by. I really do think they have changed the timeline. The time itself, it's flying by. So, anyways, um, keep your heads up. I'm still in tune with current news and all kinds of rabbit holes. It's a crazy time to be alive, definitely. So, anyway, take care, y'all. Keep your heads up, and I will see you in the next one.